I was actually a nightclub promoter for 10 years here in New York City, working at 40 different nightclubs, drinking, doing drugs, partying for a living, and really making a mess out of my life. And I came to this realization at 28 years old that I'd just become the worst person I knew. I was spiritually bankrupt, I was morally bankrupt, and I wondered what the opposite of my life would look like. And I thought that might be actually applying to humanitarian service, volunteering to serve the poor. And it led me to Benin and then Liberia, West Africa, on a medical humanitarian mission as a photojournalist, volunteering. And that led me to the water crisis. And I saw for the first time people drinking dirty water. And I'd never seen people drink dirty water before. I was selling water in our nightclubs for $10 to people who would order water and not even open it. And I learned that 1 billion people around the world lacked this most basic need. 1 billion people around the world were drinking bad water. And we had a couple big ideas. The first was to use 100% of every dollar we would raise directly to fund water projects. So whether somebody gave us $1 or $100 or $1 million, 100% would always go straight to the field and help people get clean water. We opened up a separate bank account where we would try to raise the overhead from a very small group of entrepreneurs and investors. And then the second thing was we would just prove to people where their money went. So we started putting up all of our water projects on Google Earth and Google Maps. We started putting GPS units, trackers on our drilling rigs in Ethiopia and giving them Twitter accounts, just looking for ways to connect the donors here and the money they were sacrificially giving with its impact around the world. And then we wanted to build a beautiful brand, a brand that looked more like Apple or Nike or Virgin, rather than maybe some of the shame and guilt that charities have peddled their wares with. We thought this was a joyful experience, inviting people to the table of generosity and compassion, inviting people to the party where we're celebrating everybody in the world with clean water. Who wouldn't want to come to that party? And now, 11 years later, people have generously given 1/3 of $1 billion. Over 1 million people have joined the mission. And we've been able to use that money to fund projects in 28,000 villages across 26 countries for 8.2 million people. And no, you don't need to quit your job and go live in Liberia and start a charity. But I would hope in this book, some of the stories of people who have done just small acts which have actually made a global impact. Some of the things in the book, just the smallest seed, the smallest act of compassion, the smallest act of giving. There's a story about a 9-year-old girl who touched over 100,000 people's lives through inspiring so many people around the world. So I hope that it would, there's a quote that I use at the end of the book and says, "Do not be afraid of work that has no end." And I really believe that if your work is in the service of others, if your work is ending needless suffering, then it is this kind of never-ending work. But in that work, there's a joy. You're blessed because of it. I say that the more you give, the more you give. The more that you pour out yourself in the service of others, the more free you are, the more happy you are, and the more purposeful of a life I believe you live. So the current problem is 663 million people without water, and we've been able to help 8.2 million so far, but we feel like we're just at the very beginning of that journey. 1/80th of the problem solved is not good enough for us. But I really feel like the best is yet to come. I feel like we're at the very beginning of this journey, and more people are joining every single day and are embracing this issue and making it their story.